Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back for my review of chapter 260 of Black Clover. Now, before I get into the review, I don't know if you guys have heard yet, but Black Clover will be getting a 12th opening very soon. And if you're actually interested in hearing a little bit of what that opening is going to sound like and seeing a few visuals from the opening, all you have to do is go on YouTube and just look up Black Clover opening 12. And you'll find a few videos talking about it. There's going to be a few videos with YouTubers talking over the video, pausing the 10-second video over and over again and just talking over it. If you want to skip past all that, then just keep scrolling down. You'll eventually find like a 30-second video that's going to spend 10 seconds, the first 10 seconds, just showcasing the new opening and the new song. You'll get to see a little snippet of it, and then it'll go over to something else which you're obviously not going to care about. You can just click off it after that point. But if you are interested in hearing a little bit of the new opening before it comes out, go check it out on YouTube. You get to see basically how fire it is, because I enjoyed it. Even though it was only a 10-second video or a 10-second clip, I enjoyed what I saw, and I'm excited for it, as I always am, because, Black Clover openings, they always hit. But anyway, getting into the actual review, I feel a little vindicated to quote about my prediction being right in this chapter, especially since I predicted it not only in the last chapter, but a lot of the chapters following up or, leading up to this one. I was saying that Yami was going to end up getting kidnapped by the end of this fight. And that's what ended up happening. It's, sorry if you haven't read the chapter yet. Spoilers. But yeah, by the end of this fight, Yami was kidnapped. Now, I only feel a little vindicated because I was completely wrong about who would end up kidnapping Yami. In my last review, I predicted that because of the fact that Dante's down, he's obviously knocked out, maybe Lucifer would still be active and he would actually take over Dante's body completely. Kind of like how we saw Vanica get taken over by Megakul in their hybrid form during her fight with Noel. Maybe something like that would happen where Dante, since he's knocked out, Lucifer would just take over the body completely, and then in a struggle, basically knock everyone else out and kidnap Yami. Which I was actually really hoping for, because I was interested in seeing exactly what Lucifer looked like. Because we really only got to see, it wasn't really a silhouette, but we only got to really see him in shadow with a few details being shown to us. We really don't really know exactly what Lucifer looks like just yet. So I was hoping that we actually would get to see his full detail, design. But I can understand why Tabata didn't go that route of having Lucifer take over Dante's body and fight against these guys. Because if he had done that, if Lucifer had taken over Dante's body and started fighting against the Black Bull members who are there currently in order to kidnap Yami, there would be absolutely no way for Tabata to write this in a believable way that Lucifer does not kill everyone there instantly. Because, think about it. At this point in the fight, Asta's completely done. There is no energy left in that tank. Basically, AMD had gave him a 50-second timer, gave him a power boost that basically wrecked his body. He used up that entire 50 seconds, and now he's gone. His energy is completely dried out. You can see it when Zeno, that's who ends up kidnapping Yami at the end of the chapter. Zeno goes to attack against Asta. Asta can see the attack coming, but he has no energy to dodge it. He's basically just in fear because he knows that if that attack comes at him, he is going to die. So Asta really has no way of defending him, and Lucifer, his biggest threat in this fight would be Asta. And with Asta being out of energy completely, there's no way for him to fight back against Lucifer. The rest of them were just fodder. He would easily kill them. Maybe he would let Vanessa survive because Dante showed an interest in taking her as his woman. But the rest of them, there is no reason for Lucifer to keep them alive. Especially Asta. He would kill Asta on the spot, knowing that this would be his best chance to do it. So because of that, instead of having Lucifer take over Dante's body, Tabata decided to have Zeno show up and be the one to kidnap Yami. Now we end up getting a lot of cool moments in this chapter, and in my opinion, the first one is in the very beginning, where we see Asta, he's about to pass out after using up all his energy in that fight, and Yami, with just one arm, catches him and basically just praises him for doing a great job. Again, this is just like a small moment, but it just highlights over and over again the master and student relationship the two of them have, how close their bond is, and it's a good thing Tabata started the chapter off with this moment, because it hits home even harder when you get the ending of the chapter and you see Asta just helplessly watching Zeno kidnap Yami. And then we also get this little cute moment with Gray and Gouge where everyone else, like Finral and Vanessa, had both ran towards Asta and Yami to celebrate the fact that they beat not only one of the Dark Triad members, but the leader of the Dark Triad. So they're all trying to celebrate. Gray stays behind with Gouge because, she's still watching over him as he heals. And then Gouge wakes up, and as soon as he wakes up, Gray just starts crying. She hugs him tightly. She just is jumping all over him. And you could see how excited she is about the fact that he is still alive. And then she quickly gets embarrassed and just backs off once he's like, hey, Gray, you kind of want to let go of me? And it's kind of funny because you see Vanessa also watching him from a distance, and she's obviously seeing the little hints of romance that are budding between the two of them, which seemingly have been there for, at least on Gray's side, for a long time now, at least since the beginning. It's just that we are just now being aware of it due to the backstory that we got from her a few chapters ago. But still, it was a very cute moment seeing this interaction between the two of them and seeing Vanessa's reaction to their interaction. And I actually really appreciate the fact that Tabata's taking the time, not only in this scene, but in other scenes like with Yami and Charlotte, and obviously with Noelle and Asta, and kind of Mimosa and Asta, and all the other characters who are in love with Asta, and in somewhat the same kind of things going down with Belle and Yuno, even though that's not really something I see as being an actual romance. But still, I still like the fact that Tabata's taking the time and basically just throwing hints of romance into the series, because in my opinion, when it comes to a great series, in order for something to be great, a story has to not only have great storytelling, great action sequences, and great art, it also, in my opinion, has to have a good amount of romance. And I know that a lot of Shonen Jump creators, especially, the ones who focus on action-oriented series, say they're not really that great at, basically writing romance. So I appreciate the fact that Tabata's actually taking the time to at least attempt it, because I'm pretty sure he also said in one of his interviews that he's not good at writing romance as well. Now there's actually two more moments from the chapter that I want to talk about. One that I'm sure everyone wants to talk about, that moment that's, the big moment halfway through the chapter. But there's one I actually want to get to first before that, and that is the fact that Finral was able to but he was able to basically counter an attack from Zeno going at him. And I know for a lot of people that probably won't be that big of a moment, but for me, I actually really dig this moment for Finral, because you have to guess that that attack that Zeno was throwing at him in his dark form was going at them at very high speed. It was intended to kill Asta in one strike. It had to be going at them pretty fast. And Finral was able to basically react in time to counter it. So that just shows exactly how fast Finral has become with the reaction time. And then, of course, the big moment is when Zeno showed up out of nowhere, completely out of nowhere. One moment he wasn't there, the panel before he was not there. And then we get that next giant panel of just a close-up of his face and Yami just basically unaware of his presence up until that moment. And it was just such a great panel, such a great, reveal that basically Zeno will be the one to show up and kidnap Yami. Now, there is a little bit about that I'm kind of questioning, because up until that point, Yami seemed like he was still kind of on guard, because he wasn't sure if Dante had truly been knocked out. In fact, that's the reason why he was actually walking over to Dante, because he wanted to take his grimoire in order to make sure that the fight was truly over by taking that to basically keep him from being able to use any of his spells. So if Yami still had his guard up until the point where he was picking up the grimoire, then did he drop it right after he picked up the grimoire, and then that's when Zeno jumped in and basically snuck up on him? Because I have a hard time believing that Yami wouldn't have been able to basically sense Zeno before he got that close. Maybe Zeno could have got close to them, but to be literally face to face right next to him and Yami not be aware of his presence at all. If Yami is on guard, or if Yami has his guard up at that point, I don't see that being realistic. So at some point he had to have dropped his guard, but again, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because prior to that panel, he said he was still worried about Dante unleashing some kind of surprise attack on him. So he had to have had his guard up. So I'm not sure if that's basically a translation error from the fan translation, or if Tabata just basically wasn't really thinking when he wrote that part. I don't know. I'm still up in the air on it. Now, despite the fact I don't know how I feel about that last moment, I do want to say I like the chapter overall, especially the second half of the chapter, because again, it basically just hits home with the idea that the Black Wolves are a family. Because once Yami gets kidnapped and everyone notices that he is basically about to be taken away by Zeno, everyone just jumps right in. Even Gouge, who basically had just escaped death, immediately jumps in and is fighting with his heart to rescue Yami against Zeno. A fight that they all know they really have no chance of winning, but they still jump headfirst into everyone except for Asta, obviously, because he doesn't have any energy left to fight. But everyone else, even I believe even Gray and Finral were jumping in to help out in the fight. Everyone was giving it their all in order to take back their captain. And that's something that Tabata has always been great at doing, especially when it comes to the Black Bulls, is displaying exactly how much of a family they actually are. Because we've seen moments like this prior to this, like back during the Royal Knight selection exam, we saw when Finral was basically about to be killed off by Langris, how the entire team was just ready to jump in at any moment to just take out Langris without a second thought in order to protect Finral. Alright, so real quick, I was actually about to end the video just there, but I actually went back to the chapter just to recheck to make sure I wasn't forgetting anything. And I did notice two moments that I actually did kind of forget to mention. First off, at the beginning of the chapter, we get to see that even though Asta is completely out of his dark form, his new arm is still staying around. Now, we do get to see in the beginning of the chapter some like speckles or like some particles coming off of it, which usually when we see that in manga and anime, that means that the transformation that the person has is most likely dissipating and it's going to go away. But later on in the chapter, we also see the fact that his arm is still hanging around and we don't see any of those like particles coming off of it anymore. So I'm guessing that his arm actually is going to be the sacrifice he made to AMD in order to get a new power up. So it's probably going to be permanently for the rest of the series in that blackened form. Maybe at some point when him and AMD have a better relationship, maybe Asta's arm will go back to normal and he can just kind of transform into that whenever he needs to call into power. But as of right now, it's most likely going to stay in that black form. And then the other thing I forgot to mention is that when Zeno actually threw his attack at Asta and Finral blocked it, there's a moment where for Zeno, we get like these three panels. In one, Zeno's like, oh, hey, a spatial mage, cool. And then in the next panel, we get to see basically Zeno's arm and it's shaking. And it's kind of hard to tell because of the fact that, obviously it's in a still image. If it's shaking because of the fact that he's calling back the bone spirit that he sent after Finral, or if his arm is trembling, which kind of leads into the next panel, because in the very next panel we see Zeno basically remember, like in a small little flashback, remember to someone that he had fought prior to this, and he says it's a good thing I already took care of him. So who is this person Zeno's talking about? Because when we look at that panel, it doesn't really look like anybody we've seen prior to this. And I actually went back and checked to see all the special mages that we are aware of in the series so far, and none of them match up with that character that we see in that flashback. So obviously he's not basically recollecting something when it comes to Finral's magic abilities, because it doesn't look like any special mage we've been aware of up to this point. And the closest character I can think of that looks like that character we see Zeno thinking of is Yuno. But when Zeno and Yuno were fighting, and Yuno did have kind of like a similar look to Zeno when he was going to attack him, that kind of like yelling look that the Kaya has in that chapter or in that flashback, that does look similar to what Yuno was doing when him and Zeno fought. But the way it's drawn in that flashback is completely different than the way Yuno looked during that chapter, because Yuno was in his spirit dive form during that chapter, during that fight. And when he's in spirit dive form, Tabata usually draws him with his hair a lot lighter, kind of like a little bit of a glow around his body. But in that flashback, the character, and of course this could be that it's just from the fan translation scan, usually that's a lot darker and a lot harder to, basically see the details from. So maybe it's going to change in the official translation. But from the one I saw so far, that character just had a matte black hair, which is completely different from what Yuno's hair looks like, again, in the spirit dive form. So it begs the question, was that actually Yuno? And I don't know. I honestly can't answer it. Let me know in the comment section down below who you think that was, because I don't think it's Yuno, but that's the closest character we've been introduced to so far that we know that Zeno has interacted with that could match up to him, unless Zeno's remembering someone that we haven't been introduced to just yet, or we haven't seen him actually interact with just yet. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Obviously, at the end of the chapter, Yami gets kidnapped. The rest of them can't really do anything against him. Everyone gets taken out. Even, I forgot to mention this, even Rogue gets completely evaporated by Zeno's magic power. So there's nothing they can really do besides watch Yami get kidnapped. And it was kind of a heart-wrenching scene, because we get this kind of like, obviously this is going to be way better animated, but we get this moment where when Yami is being kidnapped, he obviously doesn't say anything, any dialogue. We don't get to read any dialogue in a chapter, but During these moments, Yami's obviously telling the Black Wolves to just back off and not try to fight him anymore and just let him go, because he knows if they continue fighting, Zenon's just going to kill them. So he's sacrificing himself, even though he's already been captured and there's nothing really he can do to escape. He's letting himself be captured in order to ensure his team does not end up dying a pointless death. So I actually really dug that moment, but that's pretty much it. That's all I have left to talk about for the chapter. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.